But Worth It podcast. My name's Kirk. This is Mitch. We're with Icon Coaching. And once again, you found us at the GrowTech Fest. We've been spending the day down here interviewing all kinds of the speakers, industry speakers, people who are pitching, investors. I hope you've seen a lot of those videos. If you haven't yet, just go back. It's a big playlist and you can check them all out. But right now, we're sitting here with Michael Coogan, who is our industry speaker. Have you been on stage yet? Or are you coming up? Coming up soon. So you get to hear him first right here. This is an exclusive. Hey, Michael, can you give us just a little context for your role in the company and what the company is?
Yeah, for sure. I'm Michael Coogan. I'm the managing partner at MC2. We are a marketing agency. We do a lot of marketing consulting and recently a lot more business consulting, leaning a little bit towards AI and some of the things that are happening in the AI market right now. So it's been a very interesting season. So this is our 33rd year as an agency. So we've been around for a minute.
Wow. So AI, that opens a whole can of worms here. But let's say you are a industry speaker. I see it on your name tag. So you're here representing. Talk to us real quick. What is the thing you're talking about these days? Like, what's the big idea? You know, you're getting on stage. Like, what are the things you're carrying that you're talking about?
Yeah, I think there's a common sentiment that I've been hearing, talking to my own clients, just kind of paying attention to what's going on the internet. And obviously AI, you know, it's the thing, right? It's like as popular as pumpkin spice in the fall, right? It's a hot thing going on. And the sentiment is this AI thing, what should we be doing with it? Should we be doing with it? What's the capabilities, the possibilities? And one of the things that I have seen, there's a couple of sentiments going on, and I'm going to use the word fear like 3 times. One, there's this fear of missing out, right? People are like, hey, if we don't jump on this, you know, maybe we're going to miss out on some opportunity or some way for us to make money or whatever it is. I think there's another part. I think there's a segment of business owners that have this, what I'm calling, you have FOMO, fear of missing out, what I'm calling FOLO, the fear of looming obsolescence, right? You know, so if I don't do something, then I could be out of business, not just miss out on an opportunity. And I think there's a segment of people, I'm in that fear of missing out. Like, I want to stay in front of it. I want to make sure I understand what's going on and how it can benefit me and benefit my clients, you know, and there's a lot of people that are just in the plain fear zone that they just don't understand it. They're afraid of maybe Skynet is actually taking over right now.
Right.
They're just not quite sure what's going on and they don't understand it. And so there's a lot of fear around it. The reality of it is it's not going anywhere. The train has left the station. AI is going to happen. It's going to be integrated into everything in every single way. And so we need to learn to embrace it. And that's kind of one of the things that I've been doing a lot with people in my life personally, as well as with our clients, of just, what does that look like? What does embracing AI look like in the realm of their context?
So super quick, what does it look like to embrace it? Boil that down to a bottom line, because right now, with what it is and what we know about it at the moment, how do I embrace it today?
Yeah, I think one of the things sometimes that can happen with like an emerging technology, like, you know, artificial intelligence and ChatGPT and all these generative AI tools, is we can kind of get caught up and get a little bit over our skis of like all these amazing, fantastic things it can do. And really, we just need to embrace it in baby steps. Like, what are those small, little, repetitive tasks that maybe we hate doing that we can use an AI tool for in some shape or form to free up our staff to work on more high value work? I think from a business standpoint, like, that's the first place you should start. Just identify those things that are fully possible today and that are just these repetitive things that we can implement some kind of AI strategy to just do them for us. On a personal level, I think embracing AI is just like, it's really fun. I mean, it saves, I spent a lot of time in ChatGPT. It is a major time saver once you understand how to leverage the tool. And it's a major time saver, not just from a professional level, but on a personal level.
Yeah, I know. I found too, just even like some of the things that drag me, or writing those emails where, you know, you have a client or a vendor coming in saying, hey, we want to renegotiate this MSA or whatever. And you're like, okay, I got to give some thought to this email. And it keeps getting back burnered because I don't want to think about it. It's like, this little email is going to take me 2 hours to think about how to write it. And putting in a few prompts, I can take a 2-hour project I can tell it what I want to say. And in 15 minutes, I have a nice email. Then I tweak it and I'm like, man, that really was easy.
Yeah, if you think about it, I know there's probably some people that actually like doing what you just said, writing emails. That's not me. Sounds like it's not you. Right? So you know how to write an email, right? You could do that work, but it's kind of drudgery, right? So it's like if you could have something that could get it 80% of the way there. That's the thing with AI is it's good enough. You have to understand it's not perfect. You know, I like to use the phrase AI is your servant, not your savior. AI is nowhere close to helping you do all the things for you and think for you, you know, but it's good enough to get you along a lot farther along a lot quicker with a lot more efficiency, particularly for those drudgery type things. A great case study is, you know, I recently had this massively long Slack conversation with a developer on our team. I needed to communicate to the client about what was going on with the project. I threw so much of that Slack message, gave a little context through the entire just Slack thread, just copy and paste out of Slack, threw it into ChatGPT and was able to get an email I could send to the client that was 80% of the way there. And what it probably would have taken me an hour to craft all the things I needed, I was in and out in 10 minutes.
Exactly.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
I just turned the AI tool on in Zoom because I've been ignoring it because I couldn't.
Right.
I didn't have a perceived need.
Right. Exactly.
So I just turned it on. Like, okay, turn it on. What does it do? First thing it comes up with is a suggestion that I should actually have it tell me what the to-do list is that came out of the meeting.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, that's awesome because I'm almost always forgetting that.
Yeah.
And so I turned it on and I'm like, tell me. And it's like, pop, 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 pop. And 75% of it was good reminders that I'd committed myself to do a few things.
Yeah. Another case study. I'm going to talk a little bit about this in my talk today because it's like our subject matter is what's practical and what's possible. Right. And so like, I'm kind of living on the practical and then Brad is going to take part 2 tomorrow and talk a little bit more about the possible, but I'm in a lot of meetings. I like to talk in meetings. I'm a terrible note taker. So with my client's permission, I record meetings now, but I've gotten to the point to where like I say, so what are our key takeaways? And we say them out loud, or I use keywords. And then I take that transcript from that meeting and I throw it into an AI tool and I literally can craft an email to do the follow-up from that meeting with the client in 5 minutes. All the takeaways, all the deliverables are in there. Would have taken me a lot longer to go through my handwritten notes and decipher chicken scratch.
Especially when there aren't any.
Exactly. Especially when there are not any.
So can we go to the fear of looming obsolescence for a moment? Because that is a fear. I actually find more of that in the people I'm talking to about AI than the fear of missing out. I get excited when I run into someone who has a fear of missing out because I do. I probably fall into that as well.
Well, the fear of missing out, my fear of missing out is because I want to avoid being obsolescent.
Exactly. I stay ahead of that curve.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I find one fear productive, right? Okay, so I read, I don't know where I read this, you might even know, but someone was talking about how every time technology changes, right, in the past, we've just been able to take jobs and reframe them and move them forward and retrain. And it is disruptive and it's been hard on individual families, but as a society, we've gone through this before.
Absolutely.
Right. So in the past 100 years ago, like something like 70% of all humans were farmers. And today it's like 3%.
Yeah. The Industrial Revolution is a great example of that. So lots of pushback, lots of fear about it, taking jobs, you know, but it created new opportunity.
All kinds. And the economy grew and it's great. Okay. But this guy writes this thing and he said, I wish I could remember where I read it and who said it, but he said, this one is like when the horse and buggy, we called those, there was a guy that drove around horse and buggy for hire. We call them cabbies. And then the engine comes along, the car comes along. So we retrain the cabbies and now we have cabs and we have cab drivers, just retrain the driver. They said, but the horse got put out of work permanently, which they did. Horses lost their jobs across the landscape. We don't need as many horses. There's very few horses. Horses are largely recreational now.
I would argue, does the horse actually care?
I don't know. Let's stick with the metaphor before we start to pull it apart. The question this person was posing was, what if this shift, we're the horse? What if in this case, we can't just retrain, we're actually giving our job away? And I think that's the fear of looming obsolescence in that example.
Yeah.
Do you think that's likely? Do you think it's going to happen? Or is the retraining into future jobs, which is the story being told?
Right.
Like, how does that work? Is that going to happen? What's your thoughts on that?
You know, I don't know. We could be the horse. There's a lot of things that could happen that we don't know, right? It's like where AI is going to go and what its capabilities are going to be. But I do believe that humans in general, are really resilient and that we will adapt and figure out ways. One, there'll be new opportunities. I mean, if you look now for jobs, AI skill sets, prompt engineering, that's going to be a big part of it. These tools are all going to require some knowledge of how to use the tools. Just like I think at the advent of machines in the Industrial Revolution, it took less people to run those machines, but then there were additional industries and things that were built out of that people got employed. I don't really have any certainty in this, but I have some confidence that's probably the path that will go with this in some shape or form, right? Yeah. So if we are going the horse route, there's still horses that are employed. So be a horse that people want to employ.
Be a good horse. Yeah.
So give us some cheats. You haven't spoken yet. You're about to. So we get a preview here.
Yeah.
What are some of the practical ways those listening in can maybe leverage AI and some of the tools that are out there today?
Yeah, it's a great question. I kind of alluded to it a little bit. I mean, some of it is people aren't really using it. I don't think they really understand how they can use it. The case studies, the use cases for it are huge. They're broad, from a personal standpoint, from, a professional standpoint. Really, one of the main practical ways is just figure out a way that you can use it for yourself. And you talked about responding to emails. Maybe that's the thing that you use it for, a customer service kind of type tool, right? Maybe use it just to organize your life a little bit better. I was recently on vacation with some friends. We were on the island of Kauai. I've been there bunches of times. They were new. They wanted me to play tour guide. And so I wanted to be able to do that in a very efficient way. I just threw it in to ChatGPT and said, hey, I want to go to these places. Give me an itinerary that would be the most efficient way for them to see the island. And it kicked it out. And my knowledge of the island, I'm like, that's perfect. So there's lots of ways that you can implement it in a very practical way. You don't need to rule your world. You don't need to though there are ways for you to create products and create content and do all those things. And if that's what it's required for you professionally, you should figure out how to do that or hire somebody who can. There's lots of ways that you're going to be able to use AI tools. I'm going to back up for a second because we have yet to even see what AI is going to mean in our lives. So from a business perspective, an organizational perspective, I do believe in the very near future, sooner than we think, every organization is going to have access to or their own personal large language models that are tuned to them and to their organizations. So they're private data. That's their own versions of ChatGPT, where they have everything they need to know about their customer, their brand, their message, their products, operations, finance, everything, with pre-built prompts to help their team move things along quicker. I think that's a real thing that's coming very, very soon. Those products already exist.
They're already being used.
Yeah, they're already being used. They'll be more and more available, more and more affordable, more and more accessible. I think the real game changer is going to be that's going to move out to a family level where your families are going to have an LL, large language model system. Apple hasn't even come to market really with AI and their ownership of the personal device market. I don't have a clue what they're going to do with it. I just know it's probably going to be pretty amazing of how it's just going to be able to sync up schedules and communicate with kids. And like mom's going to put in a schedule and where the kids need to be. And it's just going to be able to be a personal concierge / butler to just kind of help organize our lives and just make things go easier.
A few years ago, I read a book and an author made this point, and he was talking about the political world and this AI revolution. And he said, look, there's a whole bunch of people who are trying to build a wall to keep cheap labor out because they're going to come steal our jobs.
Right.
The degree to which that's part of the argument that he was playing with that. And he said, those people are crazy. That's not who's going to steal your job. If you're worried about your job being stolen, what you need to do is build a wall around Silicon Valley because the robots are going to come steal your job. And he made that whole case around that thing. And when I read that, I was like, okay, that's funny maybe or something like that. But it really activated in me this notion back then that if I don't stay current, if I don't figure this out, if I don't go play with these tools, it's allowed to come steal my job.
Right.
But what I have to do is go play with it. And I feel like personally, I still feel like an idiot every time I sit down to ChatGPT. I'm like,
I'm speaking about it today, and I sometimes feel like an idiot
because we're all idiots on it right now. It's brand new. How could we be anything other than that?
Right.
There's this fear that I have of engagement because I feel like an idiot.
Yeah.
It just feels like that's the only way forward, though, is to just go engage it.
We do have to embrace it. Like, imagine if we decided not to embrace the internet when it came out.
Well,
what would our lives be like?
I may or may not have a parent in that category.
Some people still haven't.
But I mean, as far as our own advancement professionally and things of that nature, just like if we want the things we want, it's required that we embrace it in some shape or form, right?
It's here.
I was doing a little research, and apparently when electricity was rolled out in a broad scale, there were similar kinds of resistance and fears to it that we saw with the Industrial Revolution. We were seeing now with AI. People were just unsure, and it's going to electrocute people. It's not safe. So it's not
electrocute people.
That's
actually true.
Right. And so AI can probably kill people as well.
It probably will.
And it's like a tool that humans have to decide how they're going to use it.
Right.
The moral and ethical mind is the human mind. AI is not sentient.
Right.
It doesn't care.
Yeah.
Doesn't
it's
think.
amoral,
It can't discern. So just like anything, any item, we get to decide whether we're going to do good or do bad with it.
That's right.
Unfortunately, there are going to be people who do bad with it, and there are going to be people who do good with it. It's part of our human nature, and it's sad to say that we know there's going to be both sides of that. So I'm choosing to be on the side of the AI good, because if I don't do anything and I go put my head in the sand, I know people are going to do AI bad.
Yep.
Yeah.
And there needs to be people to
right.
stand in that gap, to be able to push against it. We have yet to see what kind of regulation and oversight and things like that come about with AI. It will happen. I'm for that. There needs to be some rules and restrictions around it, for all of those things. It can't just be the wild, wild west. And it kind of is now. It feels a little bit, I was in business during the .com boom, and it feels a little bit like that, right? Where you have all these companies coming to market and doing all these things, and it's going to kind of bubble's going to burst a little bit, and we're going to settle into the legitimacy of what AI I think is going to be, and what products and what companies, like everybody's just trying to go out there and get their thing to market and make their money and kind of get out.
So how does a marketer that has 33 years in business suddenly become the least idiot AI person in the room? Say it that way, right?
I mean, it's that FOLO thing, that fear of looming obsolescence. I actually have seen the writing on the wall for a few years of a lot of the things that we have made our living on becoming very much a commodity, right? And everything that we do as an agency can be done with AI. Every single thing. As a marketing agency, everything we do can be done with an AI or be AI assisted. So you have to think about, if we're going to stay relevant, what does that look like? We need to understand how it works. Can we create efficiencies now in our own process using these tools to deliver to our clients faster and better than we were to in the past, which has been proven to be true. We have to make those changes and really just be either that, or we're going to be obsolete. We're going to be irrelevant very, very soon in that process. The one thing that I believe will be, I hope that it will never happen. It may happen, because AI will always be a machine, it will always be a computer, is that what has always set us apart as a marketing agency, because the commodity factors existed even before AI, other people do other things, is that people really pay you for the way you think, and they pay you for the way that you use their tools to benefit them. That hasn't changed, and it doesn't change with the the invention of AI. It's the same thing. That people are going to get paid for their minds. Creativity is still a human thing, an inherently human thing. Creativity that comes out of AI is because it was originated from human creativity, and I still believe that will exist. I believe that actually God will keep that intact.
Yeah. And Pink even writes to that in A Whole New Mind, but he says the more we left brain the world through automation and systematization and all those things, the more we open up for our way of showing up in the right brain, which is the creative space, and taking an approach from there. And he actually says they're not separate, but he does identify that they have two different roles that they play. But I agree with you. I think once these types of things begin to happen more regularly, it just gives us more opportunity to maybe engage and create things that don't even exist today. Like today's innovation, at some point becomes tomorrow's tradition. That is a pattern. So AI will be something we talk about as it's not the cutting edge thing.
I've already seen it in some shapes or form, because I've had ideas brewing in my brain, and I was able to use AI to move those ideas farther along than I probably would have. because I'm very much, I live in the idea big space. If you, the 6 Working Geniuses from Patrick Lencioni, I'm an I and a D. And I have wonder as one of my competencies. So invention and discernment, like, hey, I got an idea. Is this a good idea? And wonder's part of that. So I live in that space constantly. I have more ideas than I can ever execute on. And AI has actually helped me be able to move a lot more of those ideas along that I probably would have just kept in a notebook, kept in a voice memo, and never done anything with, because it takes on tasks that actually aren't on my skill set.
Yeah. It's a perfect CEO assistant.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. That's awesome. Leave us with your one-liner on AI in terms of this engagement or this fear, all this stuff. Like, what do you want to say to the audience? Like, this is something you can go do today, right?
Yeah. I mean, the first thing I want to say is it's your servant, not your savior. It really is. It's assistance, and sometimes it's progressive assistance, but it really requires you to be the human in the loop. It requires you to be creative. It also provides you to validate what it's producing. This is another part of it, is that you can't just blindly have AI kick out content for you if you don't have an understanding of the subject matter, because otherwise it's going to turn out garbage. Right? So you still have to have somebody who understands what you're asking it to do and being able to validate that it's actually good enough to be used on that side of it. But really, back to the idea of like, just figure out how it applies to your life, what use cases that you can take and implement. Obviously, ChatGPT is the easiest accessible tool. Bard is a great tool. I mean, it's the best search engine I've ever used, and I use Bard and ChatGPT and another product called Claude all kind of interchangeably, because they all do things a little bit differently, and I have a workflow that I use. But just use it in some simple manner. Don't overthink it. Don't get out over your skis. You're not trying to, build something fantastic. Just get it to do something small and give you your time back. That is the most valuable thing that we have. And that's what I'm trying to get. I'm trying to get my time back so I can focus on things that are important. Focus on people, relationships in my life, focus on creating really meaningful things.
Awesome. Thanks for spending some time with us today.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was fantastic.